Welcome. You're listening to All Things Naval Aviation with your host, Rear Admiral John Meier, Commander, Naval Air Force Atlantic.
Welcome to All Things Naval Aviation. This is Rear Admiral John Meier, Commander, Naval Air Force Atlantic, and today I am joined by one of our outstanding department heads, Captain Josh Kinnear, who is the Director of Operations and Plans here at Naval Air Force Atlantic. Welcome, Josh.
Thanks, sir. Glad to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here. You know, we've been working together on the staff for quite a while, and I really want to highlight some things that I knew a little bit about your background when I got here, but my goodness, do you come from a family of service? And a lot of us do have families of service. We're becoming, to some extent, a family business, if you will, in that we have lots of folks that are either legacy, but I've seen very, very few resumes, family resumes like yours. Both your grandparents were in the Marines. One was a sergeant major. You had another who was a master gunnery sergeant. Your great uncle was an admiral. We'll talk more about Uncle Gus here in a moment. Your dad was captain in the Navy Reserves. You have an uncle who was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. Your brother served as a submarine officer. You've got a nephew who attended the Naval Academy. You're a Naval Academy graduate.
Yes,
and
sir.
continuing to serve here at Naval Air Force at Atlantic. Wow, that's an impressive family resume of service, of naval service, I might add.
Yes, sir.
Not too unlike perhaps my current family, where I have a son in the Marine Corps and another son in the Navy, although my father was in the Army Chemical Corps, interestingly enough. But I really wanted to talk to you about Uncle Gus. And I wasn't here too terribly long before I noticed the picture on the wall. And as you enter the headquarters here, we've got this photo board. I'm not personally one for my own photo, but it's got my photo on there. But it's also got all those who have served before me. And as I was looking at them, I certainly know the most recent members pretty well. But going back in history, I didn't know them all that well. And I came across one of the names, which was George Kinnear, Gus, Uncle Gus,
Yes, sir.
to you, who happened to serve here as the 14th Commander, Naval Air Force Atlantic. And really kind of talking about this in part because January 1st marks the 78th anniversary of the founding of Naval Air Force Atlantic. And I'm interested in your perspective on that. As a young man growing up, I'm sure he had a huge influence on you in your decision to continue the lineage of naval service. But any thoughts on or memories about that?
Yes, sir. Well, first of all, again, thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. It's always an honor to and privilege to talk about those in my family that have served. Specifically with Uncle Gus, I was born into naval aviation, and my earliest memories actually are of him and naval aviation and my father and the connection there. As a young 4 or 5-year-old, we had just moved to the area. Uncle Gus was sitting in your seat over at Franklin Street, going to visit the Eisenhower, which was a newly commissioned Nimitz-class carrier. As a 4-year-old, was pretty amazing. Rocking around with a button that said I like Ike, having no idea what it meant. I still have memories of that. Going to visit Uncle Gus's house on the Connecticut house. At the time, just this massive, what to me perceived to be a mansion. And going to, obviously being Airland, he had access to, and when we had air shows, getting, the VIP status, if you will, as a young child, being able to see the air show occur was, pretty amazing. And probably I will say the Hollywood moment very early on was when Uncle Gus was sitting in your seat. They filmed a movie called The Final Countdown, and it's about the Nimitz going back in time. Although it's cast as occurring in Hawaii, it actually was filmed right here in the Vacapes, and Uncle Gus was, as Airland, intimately involved in the approval and the production of that. So when that hit the theaters, it was kind of big time for the family. Most people don't know it. He actually has a cameo at the very end when all the flag officers come on board. So that was, again, at a very early age, I lived naval aviation from a spectator's view, and it has carried throughout my entire life here I am now.
Well, that's impressive. And, I haven't seen the Final Countdown in a long time, but I remember that movie. It's a pretty old movie,
Yes, sir.
actually, so I watched that as a kid. Yet another data point that the Navy's put out a pretty long history of good movies. Final Countdown was pretty impressive. Top Gun, and then Maverick is, I think, coming out whenever we get through the COVID restrictions.
Yes, sir.
And there's a lot of anticipation for that movie with really an amazing focus on flying in the aircraft. You touch on some points that really remind me of my family and my kids. And I remember my kids in some of those fly-ins that I had as a naval aviator. It's always hard leaving our families, but coming home is such an incredible event. And you fly in, and the engines are barely shut down, and the wives and kids are running across the flight line to come give Daddy a hug. Great memories of that. Clearly an impact on you, but I would argue an impact on my kids as well. So Uncle Gus was the 14th Airland, and I'll give you. I'll let you guess. What do you think I am in that sequence?
35th, sir.
Wow, that is amazing. That you must have done your research before you came in today. But yeah, 35. So there's been 21 Airlants since your uncle was here. I love the family of service and the impact that has had on you and your decision. Can you tell me a little bit about your background and your flying career?
All right, yes, sir. So, again, at a very early age, kind of really knew that I wanted to go into the Navy in particular. I waffled back and forth between wanting to be a pilot and wanting to be a SEAL. Naval aviation eventually won out. I've spent my entire career in the rotary wing portion of naval aviation, flying the MH-53 Echo. I was fortunate to have command of one of the two operational squadrons, HM-14. And although Uncle Gus was a tail hook, pointy nose guy, actually was a TAC guy originally, my father is really my inspiration for how I got into rotary wing. Originally a Marine Corps Cobra pilot, who transitioned to the Navy Reserves, flying Huey gunships and 60 hotels. So born into naval aviation, but born into the rotary wing side of naval aviation is really the longest exposure. But yeah, that's pretty much my background, sir, flying helicopters for the Navy.
So I had the opportunity to fly in the MH-53 not too long ago, and that is a big beast.
Yes, sir.
It is an enormous aircraft. But I was absolutely amazed at how steady, I thought it was a rock-solid aircraft to fly. And I'm not a helicopter pilot by trade, so I would argue that I am marginally qualified. They only crew me with the best and most experienced aviators on the flight line. But I found it to be a pretty forgiving aircraft, if you will, for rotary wing. And I think once you kind of learn the collective and
cyclic, sir.
Cyclic. Thanks. See, that tells you how I'm clearly not a rotary aviator, but the collective and cyclic skills and the ability to move your feet around constantly, because it's a lot different than flying a
Yes, sir.
fixed wing aircraft. And it's I really have enjoyed the challenge, but I love that flight, and hopefully I'll get to fly with them again. Another little known fact is in the New Hampshire house, which is the Airland house now. You said it was the Connecticut house, I think, when Uncle Gus was in the chair. Well, it's migrated to the New Hampshire house now, which is a mansion. It's huge. It's somewhere in the area of 7,000 square feet for my wife and I. So that's probably about 6,000 feet more than we need. But and it's designed really for entertaining, which we haven't been able to do here. One of the areas of the house we've kind of started to turn into a bit of a museum, where we've taken a lot of those old plaques from oak clubs, and we've started to put them on the walls there. One of those plaques as I was looking at it, is from HM14, and there's a Lieutenant Junior Grade Kinnear on that,
Yes, sir.
which I'm really proud to have in the New Hampshire House. Hopefully, if I can convince Navy History and Heritage and my successor, whenever that day comes, to keep that there, this will be kind of an annex, if you will, of naval aviation history and heritage right there in the New Hampshire House. So I talked earlier about the fact that we're celebrating the 78th anniversary of Airlant, and I'm interested in your thoughts on that. You play an enormous role here as the N3, the operations and plans department head. I wonder if you can give us and the audience your sense of what that means, the significance of that.
Well, it means a lot, sir, both professionally and personally. So professionally, as I look back, from my time in the Navy, entering as a plebe many years ago at the Naval Academy till now, and seeing how naval aviation, historically, the role that it played, especially in World War II, through major combat operations in Korea and Vietnam, to what it became, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and then obviously OEF, OIF, and beyond. It has really grown, transformed, evolved, and it's pretty, amazing to watch. How critical and important naval aviation is to, as an instrument of national power. So professionally, I think it's amazing to be still, on service as we look back in 78 years, at least for Airland. For personally, though, like I said, I was very fortunate. I was literally born into naval aviation. I was exposed to it as a child, as a teenager. Even Uncle Gus surprised me and became my speaker at my the speaker at my winging ceremony. I had no idea he was going to do that until like a week or so before, and the staff was scrambling to get ready for that. And then now, as I get towards, obviously, been at Airland for a few years. Personally, it again brings a sense of pride, and I'm happy to be a part of the team and the historic time that we're in, sir.
Any regrets over your service, years of service and career of flying?
No, sir. It's kind of, my goals have evolved. Originally, it was get my wings, then it was make it through my first tour, and then see what happens next. I very fortunate to command a squadron, probably the most challenging but the best job I've ever had in my life. I don't think it'll ever get topped. And to come here, no regrets, sir. I'm glad the journey ended up the way that it did.
Well, I don't have any regrets either, and I share that sense of the opportunity to command as just being unbelievably rewarding. The responsibility placed on our commanding officers, not just for the material equipment, the millions or in some instances billions of dollars of material, but our nation's most precious resources are sons and daughters, and I've always found that to be far and away the most rewarding aspect of any command I've had the good fortune to serve in. Well, Josh, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. I thank you for your service. I thank you for your family of service. It's really a great opportunity to serve with you. I certainly enjoy that aspect, but it's also a great opportunity to recognize your family of service. I'll close with just a thought, and you touched on this, and I think you really captured this well as we talk about 78 years of Naval Air Force Atlantic. And what we do here at Naval Air Force Atlantic is principally man, train, and equip naval aviation forces, to include our aircraft carriers, to send them forward deployed. Where our Navy serves today, serves continuously forward deployed, ready at a moment's notice to respond to the National Command Authority, but also ready to prevent wars of the future. And I think we train hard. We prepare ourselves both materially and physically and mentally for war. But we also pray every day for peace, that day never comes. To you, the rest of the staff here, and all of those who serve, thank you for your service. Thank you for the forward presence, the readiness, and the preparation to serve and to sacrifice for your Navy and for your nation. Oscar out.